Hi, so in this video I'm now going to talk about sport photography. Now sport photography for me, having worked in lots of all different genres, is actually one of the most difficult genres to work with. So, how do you do it? Well, what I would personally do is not use your camera manually. And the reason for that is because you've got a sport mode or a shutter speed mode on your camera. Now with the shutter speed mode, that allows you to choose what shutter speed you want. So basically you're going to want to be using the faster shutter speeds. So for instance, as you can see here, you've got your long shutter speed from, let's say, 30 seconds, 15, 6 seconds, all the way up to, I think, 1,000th of a second. Okay, so the faster the shutter speed, the faster it is to take the picture. So for instance, motorsport, Formula 1, is going very, very fast. So you want to use a super fast shutter speed. For instance, 1,000th of a second. So it's capturing the moment. If you went for a slower shutter speed, you get the blurry effect, which is what you don't want. So, what I would suggest to do, depending on what you're photographing, which sport, you need to test it out. So put your camera on S for shutter speed mode, or TV for shutter speed mode for sport photography when you're using Canon camera. Nikon, it's S. Then what you're going to do is you're going to test each shutter speed. So I would start off on 100th of a second, 200, 250, 500, 1000. Check it. See what works best for your sport. So that's the actual technical bit of using the camera. Okay. Oh, and you're also going to use 100 ISO and 200 ISO. Keep it low again. Now, actually taking the picture is a little bit more difficult. So about 10 years ago I finished my degree and I got asked to go and photograph a local football team. I think it was Swindon football team. Now the problem is you're going to be using a low, because you're using a fast shutter speed, you're going to be using a low depth of field. So remember, higher the aperture, longer the shutter speed, lower the aperture, faster the shutter speed, which you're going to be using. So you're going to be using a low depth of field. So you're going to have the blurry effect. So you need to focus on whatever you're photographing continuously. So when the ball's coming along, let's say football, when the ball's coming along and the player's about to header at it, you need to actually focus on the head, on the player, not the ball, on the player. And you need to use spot metering, so you're using one spot to point on that player inside your visual part of the camera. So what you're going to do, you're going to have to go round, you're going to basically, you're following the ball with your eye to the camera continuously. Snap, 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 snap. In my opinion, I had to take 100 pictures to possibly get 3 or 4, maybe 10 decent ones. And it wasn't actually down to the speed of the shot, it was actually down to the focusing. That was the pain bit, that was the annoying bit. So folks, you're going to follow the ball round, taking the shot. Even if it's motorsport, snap, snap. You've got to be quick, you've really got to pan round. Now what I would say, folks, is a monopod is a very normal thing for a sport photographer to use. It's just one pod, it just gives you a little bit more stable. The next bit, you're going to need to get a decent zoom lens. So you're going to have to put your money in your pockets, folks, and get yourself a decent zoom lens. So for instance, I used for football, at a local football match, I used my 300mm and I still felt I could have gone a bit further. Well, I could have gone further. Professional football photographers, for instance, they use 1,000mm lens, really big lenses. I was at a cricket match the other week, and the photographer had a lens about that big. It was gigantic. It must have cost thousands. So, folks, I wouldn't recommend to use your 18 to 55, your standard lens you get with a normal basic digital SLR. You're just going to be, it's more like an architectural shot, really wide shot. Sport photography, you need to get a decent zoom lens. Sigma, Tamron, they're cheaper than a Nikon or a Canon lens, but they fit with the cameras. You'd be saving a few £100 possibly, or I don't know how much, but you're saving some pennies. So folks, pan round, use the S and the shutter speed priority, so you're basically not touching the aperture because you know it's going to be a low depth of field anyway. Let the camera do the hard work on that bit. I don't normally say that's one of the only genres I ever say use the shutter speed priority, and just take lots of pictures. That's what you're going to have to do. And then come back and flick through them and see which ones are your best ones. Okay folks, it's great fun doing it, it's active, it gets you outside, but it's one of the most difficult genres I find. Thank you for your time. Take care.